Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. Welcome to another episode of Holistic Wellbeing. COVID-19 has put all of us in unprecedented situation and we all are living in uncertain times. This is very fluid situation. We don't know what will happen next. These are the crises what we were not prepared for. So, as we all know, all the school, colleges, universities all around the world have been closed. When national and local governments announced emergency measures to fight against COVID 19, universities scrambled to move classes online. And they also cleared the dorms to limit the spread of the virus. And international students have been largely left on their own to face this situation. So, for the international students, this situation has created much greater disturbance because there were a number of students in the universities, those who return back to their parents' home. But on the other hand, international students cannot go back to their home due to number of reasons, especially for the visas, because they think if they go back to their country, they might won't be able to come back. And to my surprise, the US is home to about 1.1 million international students. Viewers, it was also surprising for me too. So, to shed some light on these issues, I have invited Elena. Hi, Elena, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. Hi, I'm good.
Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. So I'm Elena Kefalogianni. I'm from Greece, and I am a student at Georgetown University doing my master's in journalism.
Mhm. So, Elena, you are international student here in US. So, what was your reaction when you first time heard all the situation, and it was also unexpected for you too? So, what was your reaction, and why did you decided to stay here instead of going back?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I was trying to make a decision for a really long time, and I was trying to see what other people will do. But then I saw that if you're an undergrad, the dorms were closing unless you had some severe circumstance and couldn't go home. But I wasn't an undergrad. I had my own apartment, and I still have it. So I realized that if I went home, I would have to have classes 3:30 to 5:30 a.m. And that's okay because it's a difficult situation right now. But with the interviews and being in journalism, I would also have to do all my interviews at night based on the time difference and availability.
Oh,
The other issue was I had an internship with the Greek embassy, and also the hours wouldn't work out. So I would probably end up living during the night and just sleeping during the day, which I know it's not very possible at my home in Greece because we are a loud house. My brother is going to be there,
mm,
stuff like that. And one of the other reasons was because, when Trump put the travel ban, I wasn't sure what's going to happen with being able to return back. And that's actually still an issue. So I figured maybe the best situation is to stay here. Greece was on a really bad lockdown. So, even if you wanted to leave the house, you actually had to send a message to say
mm,
where you're going. And there were like 5 or 4 options, and they were very specific. And if they caught you in a different place, you paid a fine. So I figured maybe here is the best place to stay. I can go out, I can take a walk. And I was hoping that eventually I would go home in the summer. But then, flights started to get harder and harder to get. And right now I am still, well, I'm hoping to actually go home towards the end of this month. But it's not guaranteed that when I come back, there's not going to be any problems. So we all hope that the semester is not going to end up being online because,
because it's not like this is what we are were not prepared for.
yes.
So, so how do you spend your entire day since you are away from your family, parents? At this time, I think the thing which we most need is emotional support. So, what are your coping strategies and how do you make sure and how do you ward off that feelings that you think can put you in any psychological trauma?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's been very hard. It's probably the hardest semester I've had in my entire time in the States, and I've been here 6 years. I went through some personal stuff earlier in the beginning of the year, which I'm not going to discuss. But in terms of how I spend my day, I've baked and cooked everything you could ever imagine. I've
Mhm.
tried to do a lot of workouts. I mean, I even did karate online for some time. It's just that it's hard to stay motivated because, if you don't have anybody to train with, you're constantly looking at the screen. You have to be quiet because your neighbors downstairs are going to hear you, hitting the floor and all that. And it gets tiring after some point, even if it's something that you really love. And I really love karate and martial arts. And then, like my building actually offers online classes like yoga and stuff like that they had before. But sometimes it's really hard to follow from the computer and you don't really know what you're doing and it gets tiring. So I take a lot of walks. I found a trail behind my place and I just go there, and I think I've developed like a relationship with nature. So I mean, I'm not like a photographer, I'm not like good at it. I mean, I think I'm decent after the class I took last semester, but I really enjoy just taking pictures of flowers and the birds here, which I didn't know about because I don't have them at home. There's this beautiful, like colorful birds here in Maryland. But also just nature is really nice, very calming. I've taken a lot of runs. And like I said, I took into photography. And really, there are just some days that you just kind of have to get by. I mean, I definitely had my breakdowns. I definitely had moments where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do and like freaked out. But then I have a blog. So I wrote in my blog. I actually think it's really great that you're doing this. I also did a little blog where I basically invited people to speak about their experience during this time. And I think it was very helpful to get everybody's voice out. And then I write short stories by myself. I do the homework. I take care of the house and stuff like that. But I think it's very normal to feel that some days are really hard to get by and just like feel alone. And hopefully we'll all get through it.
Of course, this is what we all are praying for, that this time will pass quickly. So, so Elena, you just mentioned you write your blog too, and you got a chance to listen from other students how they are dealing and what kind of time they are suffering from. So, what was their like mutual consensus about this situation? What were their concern?
I think it's mostly that we're all worried about our future
Hmm.
because it was people my age who contributed to the blog, like, between, let's say, 20 to 24.
Mhm.
So we're all worried about our future. Some of us are in school. So right now, and especially if you're international, like you have to actually assess the situation and decide whether you're going to be able to stay after all, because nobody expected this to happen.
Mhm.
Other people who are working now, they're mostly worried about losing their jobs or making less money and things like that. But for the most part, it was students who, they're struggling to see what they're going to do with online classes, not being able to see their friends, things like that. And then like sad things, like people who went through the coronavirus or had a relative, actually, like for example my mom went through it, and my grandpa is in the hospital right now for something else. But like people also dealing with situations that were unprecedented on top of having the coronavirus. So I think that's definitely been the consensus of all of us being in the same boat, struggling. And
Yes, I totally understand what you guys are going through, especially when you are away from your family. Your friends become your family, and at this time you don't have opportunities to see your friends, to go to the universities, because this is a good way to keep yourself occupied. So I think this situation creates a lot of like trauma for all the students. So I actually, one more thing which I would also like to mention, that since all the international students need visa to stay here, so I think this is another thing students are struggling with, how to maintain their status. What do you think about this?
actually, I've read a lot of, because this is like my number one concern. And so I've read a lot about immigration, and I've actually contacted, I work at the Greek embassy. I've contacted the embassy, I've contacted my international advisor, I contacted the American embassy in Greece. I reached out to as many people as I had. And it's really good that I got to meet all these people before for stuff, because you can only, I was speaking to another girl who's from Canada, only if you know somebody in government you can really get an answer, and it's still like not certain. But I did reach out to all these people, and they said that for the most part, like the order, and I mean that's true for now, does not affect people who are students. So it's for immigrants, and we're non-immigrants if we have like a F1 visa status. So I'm not worried about that. It's just that things change all the time and you don't know. And it's mostly the coronavirus that might put another travel ban. For the most part, immigration has decided that if students are home because of the coronavirus, the visa status won't get affected. So the only concern is that, yes, you'll have your status, but maybe you won't be able to enter the US because of the travel ban.
Got
Um, and for me, it's also a big deal because I mean, I also babysit on the side. I love kids. With some of the families, I've been able to keep in contact, and it's been hard for their kids too, not being able to suddenly see somebody. And I've been very lucky to have a family that I'm really close with, and
it.
stay in touch. But it's definitely something we're all worried about, and nobody really knows.
Of course, of course. One last question, Elena. Since all we know that this future, like our future, is in limbo, nobody knows where the situation will go, and nobody can expect future. Nobody can foresee future. So, do you think this pandemic has impacted or will impact your future plans too?
Yes, but I won't say it's just the pandemic. And this is just completely like, my experience. From the time I came to the States, I had the goal to definitely, get my bachelor's and then get my master's and then find the job that's, based on my passions, on my dreams, the job that I would work the best for my lifestyle. But, I also value a lot my personal life, and it's been really hard to be for so many years away from home. And at the same time, though, I think I've built a network to be able to have some opportunities. I'm not going to say that anything is for certain, but I think I've built a network to have some opportunities for jobs when I graduate. And I do know we get 1 year of OPT, so I think I may use that if the situation is under control. But I don't know for long term, because it really depends on, I think, my personal life too. I think it's really important to be somewhere that you feel like you have a family.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of young people come in the States because it's great education, great experience. Perhaps you can get published while you're here, work for some time, and then, um, do the best you can wherever you're going to go. I mean, if I stay here, I'm sure I'll do something that based on my goals and my dreams. But if I go home, I feel the same way. I don't think that deciding where you're going to end up is a failure. I think as long as you stick to your goal and you really make it worth it, it doesn't matter. So what I want to say is basically that the pandemic is not going to be my reason for deciding to move back or stay here. And I think I'm lucky in really that I have been planning all this time, that you know things might happen, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that if I do want to stay, I think I've proven to some people, that they can trust me, that I'm hardworking, that perhaps they can employ me if they want to. But it's going to take more than a pandemic to bring me down. And I think that's how everybody should think. And it's certainly really hard. I'm not going to underestimate that by any means. It's really hard. Maybe we'll stay unemployed for some time. But I think it's important to keep in touch with the people that you really care to work for, and to do the work now, prepare stuff, whatever it is, and just hope for the best. And wherever you end up, you have to be happy.
Of course. So, Elena, thank you for your time and thank you sharing your experiences with us. So, viewers, today we got a chance to hear from an international student how they are being affected by this pandemic. So, viewers, as we all know, I always end up my show with the thought of the day. For today, I know we all got stuck in our home. We cannot go outside, we cannot meet with our friends, but we should think about the people, those who have lost their job, have no resources to put their food on the table. So we should be thankful to God. At least we are safe, healthy, and at home. Stay home, stay healthy. Allah Hafiz.